Okay, I'm starting. Okay, so hope you guys are able to download the programs which I had sent in WhatsApp group and able to practice. So, so far any questions on the last class on exception handling, and we also, after that we also covered about delegates, events, and event handlers. So, any questions on those two topics?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So now we'll go on one more important concept in CH. It's called collections. Okay. Uh, okay. So before going to start about collections, okay. Now we had already discussed about arrays. Okay. So if you look at the arrays, okay, there are some drawbacks of using arrays. Okay. So the drawbacks are once you declare the array size, okay, there is no way you can increase or decrease the size of that array. It's always fixed. And in case if you wanted to expand the array, the only way is you need to create a new set of array and start using it. Okay. And even if you use the array resize method internally, I mean, so you mention the same array name and you say, hey, increase the array size from 5 to 10. So though you are saying the same array name to resize, internally what it happens is it will create a new array and copy the old data elements to the new array and it will destroy the old array. So what I am trying to explain is that array size is always fixed. There is no way you can change the size. Okay, this is one thing. And there is one more problem with the array is, where is my Excel? Okay, suppose if I declare my array as a 5 size, let's say 5 size. So then you have total 5 elements, index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, this is how my array looks like. Okay, so now suppose uh, you wanted to insert one element, let's say here. So I'm saying you wanted to insert a element. When I say insert an element, that means I'm not asking, my intention is create a new location at this place, okay, and add the value. That means I'm asking to insert one more memory, one more element. That means indirectly I'm asking to increase the array size to 6, right? Which is because since we already know that array size cannot be increased or decreased, so there is no way you can insert any data element in between. You can insert at the specific location, but if you wanted to insert a new element, new index, it is not possible. Same way, if you want to delete a specific location, it's not possible because array is always fixed. So in order to overcome this kind of problems, okay, we have the concept of collections. So now what is a collection? So collection is a group of records that can be treated as a one single logical unit. So why I'm saying it is one logical unit? Look at the examples like now I have provided here. So we have a collection of countries. Okay, since it is used to store the countries, so I'm saying it's a logically you know single unit which can store country names. Same way, we can have a product, we can have an employee collection, we can have a bank book collection. Okay, so all these are like into one logical unit. So just for now, just understand it's a group of similar records that is called logical unit, right? Now look at what all the type of uh, collections we have. Okay, we have you know at the top level we have four different types of collections: index based, key value pair, prioritized, and specialized collections. Okay, so we have already discussed about the arrays in our earlier classes. So index based, because in arrays everything goes by the index, right? So similarly, we have one more thing called list. It's also as good as array, but it has some own advantages, which I'm going to cover in the coming slides. So index base is always, it's a index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and we have two different sub or we have two different classes, array and list. And if it is key value pair, as the name depicts, key, there is a key for each value, key value pair. So we have a hash table and sorted list. And the prioritized collections, we have stacks and queues. And there are some like specialized collections for strings and hybrid. But so here predominantly, what I am trying to say is that, like, since there are some limitations in arrays, the collections has been introduced, and we have various kind of collections. You can access using index base, you can access using key value pair. Okay, you can access using what is prioritized collection. That means either you have a FIFO or LIFO using stacks and queues. So mean the way you are going to retrieve the values based on that concept, we have four different classifications. Okay, so in index based, you are always going to retrieve the values using the index value. So key value pair means it is as good as index, but index you have always go with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of mentioning 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, in key value pair you have to define your own key. You can mention your own key instead, because it's very difficult to remember the index locations. How do you know, like, what is the value of index 5 or 6? It's not possible. But rather, instead of giving 1, 2, 3, 4, you can mention a key, your own key, which you can easily recall. To have, like, hash table and sorted list. And prioritized, there is nothing called the index or key. It is based on the last in first out or first in first out. Okay, and these are all, like, specialized collections. I mean, mostly, no need to worry about this. Mostly we need to focus on this thing. Okay, so now I mentioned about the index based, so I'm just going little further about to explain about index, key value, and prioritized. Okay, so index, so as I mentioned, if you want to access using index, so you have to use this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like what we used in arrays. Okay, so in the list, right, in the list you always use the index. So the biggest problem what I see with the index is, suppose you are storing USA in index 3, and it is, you have to remember, okay, hey, I have stored my USA country value in the index 3. It may not be always possible to remember what is your index for each and every country, right? So that is the biggest problem I see using the arrays and list. But this is how it works. Okay, so it's always the array and list both comes under index and always starts with the 0 and go on. Okay, and if it is key value pair, it is similar to index, but I mentioned that you know you can define your own key value. Okay, so in the arrays and list, you're using index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But if it is key value pair, you mention what is the key. Okay, hey, my key is IND for India, my key is UK for United Kingdom, my key is SL for Sri Lanka. So it is basically much easier to remember the country names by using the country code. So here the country code is a key and country name is a value. So it's called key value pair. It's a combination of country code and country name. So by referring this country code, you can access the actual value or actual country name. Okay, and prioritized collections. So as I mentioned, we have two different classes, queue and stack. Okay, so queue, as the name depicts, queue, it is a queue. Whoever enters into the queue first is the person who is coming out. And stack, it is LIFO, last in first out. Okay, whoever kept the book at the top, or the book which is kept at the later part, is the first book to retrieve. Last inserted item will be taken first. Okay, so now that is the the concepts of collections. And if we go one more down about collections in CH, okay, as I mentioned, collections in CH is a predefined set of classes. They are part of system.collections namespace. Okay, so the biggest advantage of using collections is size can be increased dynamically. Okay, basically, you don't need to mention any size for the collections, so it's always expandable. So that gives you the ability to insert the elements at any position of the specific class, the collections class, right? And you can also add and you can also delete. Okay, so if you go little further, okay, so we have system.collections classes, system.collections generic classes, system.collections concurrent classes. Okay, see, more or less all are same with some a little difference. Okay, so in the collections.classes we have array list, stack, queue, hash table, and sorted list. So all these are comes under non-generic collection. In generic, if you see in generic also, you see almost similar to same, but it you have more, like you have stacks, queues, okay, sorted list, okay, sorted set. It's almost like and list. It's mostly like the non-generic and generic, the classes almost does the same, but it just that like non-generic classes have been introduced in the earlier days of CH, and later mm, they have been modified and they have stored or they have redefined some more set of classes and they added in generic classes. So I'm mostly going to cover the non-generic classes, and believe me, it's almost as good as same. Even I don't need to explain about the generic class. You can go and refer. Okay, how it works. Maybe the syntax was a little different, but it's almost does the same way. Generic and non-generic. Okay, and if you see concurrent, okay, concurrent. Okay, so whenever I say concurrent, it is basically it's a multi-threading. So same program have been used by more than one thread simultaneously accessing the same program. So in that case, okay, in order to have the thread safety, okay, so just heard about this thread safety. I'm going to cover that multi-threading in the next class. So in order to get the thread safety, we have another set of classes which are stored in the concurrent class. Okay, system.collections concurrent classes. Okay, so if you see, it has always everything is like if you see queue is there, stack is there. Okay, that basically prefers the concurrent. Okay, so basically it's for the thread safety purposes. So remember, system.collections is the main class. After that, they have system.collections generic class. Then we have concurrent classes. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on these six arrays: list, hash table, sorted list, stack, and queue. These six I'm explaining you as a concept, plus I'm going to cover as a your system.collections class. Okay, so my request is like once you're done with this class, you can go through the subsequent classes, generic class and concurrent classes, and just have some kind of practice with different class available in generic and concurrent. Okay, So now we'll start with array list. And okay, so as I mentioned, we are only discussing about the non, if you see right here, right? The second one is generic class. That means the first one is non-generic class. That's why I mentioned as its array list is a non-generic collection of classes that works like an array but provides facilities such as dynamic resizing, adding, deleting the elements from the middle of the collection. Okay, so I have explained already, right? So here one thing which is very critical point here. The array list can be used to add unknown data. That means you can add any kind of data into the array list. But if you recall your memory, arrays are only used to store only one specific type of data. If you declare an array using integer, you can only store integer values. If you declare as a float, you can store only the floating values. Hope you are able to recall that. So arrays are always to access similar kind of data elements. But array list, you can have a different kinds of data types stored in the same array list. Okay, let's see, like let me open up the program. Okay, so now let's see here. Okay, so this is the array list. So array list is the class I have already mentioned. Okay, and I have my collections namespace included because array list is coming from the collection class. Okay, so I am declaring a new array list, that is array list 1. Okay, by leveraging new of this class. Okay, so I have a new object called array list 1. So look at how I am adding to this array list. I'm using a add method. It's already available. Okay, so I'm directly using that add method to store the values in that array list. So as I mentioned, in array list 1, okay, I can store a integer value, I can store a string value, okay, I can store a null value, I can store a boolean value, I can store a float value, and I can store basically the same kind of value twice, duplicate values. But using arrays, you can only have integer type or float type or string type. But here array list 1 can contains integer or string or float or boolean values. So this is one of the important thing you have to remember. I will explain why. Okay, but for now remember that array list can capable of storing a different data types using the same array list. Okay, so now fair enough, I have declared my array list. Okay, and I have added the values. Okay, and if we wanted to print the array list, obviously we use the for loop or for each loop. So I'm trying to print that. Okay, so here I have taken the variable type. Okay, so remember guys, if it is variable, this item can be a integer or float or character. So if I am not sure what kind of data element, okay, I can declare as a variable. So it can hold a character or float or boolean or any kind of data type, generic one. So item is a increment I'm using in array list. Okay, and I'm just printing since it is for each, for every item in that array list, it will keep on rotating and it will print the values here. Okay, this is one way of accessing the data elements in the array list. Okay, so now you see I'm trying to access using the index. Okay, so you know right about like how you access the array element. use the index here. So same way, array list of index 0. Okay, so array list of index 0, which is contains 101, which is an integer value, right? Because I don't know what kind of value I have in this each and every element. Okay, so that's why, array 1 index 0 contains an integer value. I'm trying to convert into a int and storing in the another variable. So array list of 0 is an integer type conversion. I'm storing in first element. And array list 1, the index 1 contains a string James, right? So array list 1. So I'm converting into a string. I'm storing in a string data type. Since you have the capability of storing any kind of data type using array list, and whenever you are going to retrieve the value and store it in another variable, you need to ensure that you are going to convert that value, right? Because you do not know what is the value you are going to store, then it is very difficult. So you have to always see, like, where, I have this integer in the first index, 0 index. Let's convert into an integer, right? So now that means the drawback is that, like, unless you know what kind of data you have stored in the specific index, okay, it would be very difficult to retrieve it. You have to know. You have to know index 0 contains integer. You have to know index 1 contains string. It's very difficult, right? That is the reason, we have to use a var. So as I mentioned earlier, var is a generic data type which can store all kind of data types, integer, float, boolean, all those. So now you see here, array list of 0 I am retrieving directly. I'm storing in first item. See, I don't have any conversion like in the previous code here, right? I'm converting into integer, storing in integer variable. But here, since my first item is a variable type which can store any kind of value, I'm just simply saying, hey, array list of 0 store in first item, array list of 1 store in second item. So it's a generic variable class. Okay, and now let's see, I'm updating the elements. Array list 1, I'm saying because it contains 101. Now I'm saying Smith. Array list of 1, I'm saying 1010. So you're updating the array list. Okay, so now here, so far we have declared the array and explicitly we are adding the values to that array. But if you want to do the declaration as well as insertion or initialization, you can go with this kind of statement. Array list 2, I have used a new array list 2. Okay, and I am directly initializing the values. Index 0 contains 102, index 1 contains Smith, index 2 contains again Smith, index 3 contains a boolean value 2, index contains 15.6. Okay, it's basically declaring as well as initialization values. So again, I'm trying to print the values using array list 2 of specific index. Okay, so basically I just mentioned about using the for loop and for each loop. So basically it prints same values. Okay, so look at, okay, first we are 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, right? Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 up to this, and we have null value also printed here. Okay, and after that, using index with explicit data type, okay, I printed list to 0 index as well as 1 index. That means I printed 101 and James. Okay, again I am printing using the variable data type. Okay, without any implicit conversion. I just say directly store array list of 1, whatever the value it is, whether it is an integer, then this var or this first item becomes an integer variable. Like that I'm using. Then I have updated using the array list of index location. Then I have a new array list 2 with the declaration as well as initialization, and I have printed those values using for loop and for each loop. Okay, so it's, see, remember guys, it's, this array list is fairly simple when comparing to arrays. Okay, and the biggest thing is that you have lot of methods available in this array list one. Okay, if you see, methods, right? I think I should have one. Yeah, methods. Okay, so I mean, it's it don't no need to worry about, like, because it has lots of methods available. Okay, for each and every class. And the good thing is that, like, using Visual Studio Code, you can always access what are the methods available in the array list. If you see, okay, it will show what are all the methods available. You see, add range, add parallel, count, equal to, copy to, contains. Okay, so there are a lot of methods available. You can always retrieve using this, because previously we used to remember all the methods, but now using this IDE, it's everything is available. You don't need to you know by heart those. Okay, now see, I have one more example for array list. Okay, and I have created a new array list with the initialization values of these many countries. Okay, and I am trying to print those values. Okay, I now see, so I am in the last program we have used add method to add a value, right? So here, if you want to insert any specific value in between the array list, you can use insert method. Okay, array list insert. Insert has two parameters. One is at what index position you wanted to insert, and what is the value of those new data element. So I'm saying at the index 0, that means the very first location, insert country name Brazil. Okay, and after inserting, what happens? So the India is right now the index 0 and USA is index 1, like that. So when you add Brazil at the top, index 0 contains Brazil, index 1 becomes first index, USA becomes second index. It just moves towards right because you are adding a new value. Okay, and now again, I have added a Argentina country at the index 2. That means at the third position, I'm adding one more country called Argentina. So 0, 1, there is no impact, but whatever the country we have at the index 2 will be moved towards the right, and Argentina will become the index 2. Okay, you can just, I mean, once I run, you will be able to easily understand. And then I am trying to remove. So you can remove. So insert and remove. So remove means I'm hard coding what is the data element you wanted to remove. So it will look at the entire array list. Wherever it finds this Japan, it will remove that. Okay, but remember, like, what I mentioned here is removes the first occurrence of Japan. Suppose if your array list contains more than one entry for Japan, okay, it will not delete all the data elements. Rather, it will delete only the very first occurrence. Okay, and after deleting also, I'm, so basically after doing each and every method operation, I'm trying to print it to see how it is behaving. Okay, so remove you can remove using the actual value. See, one more thing called remove it. By mentioning the index number, you can say, hey, index 3, whatever the value is there, remove it. You can also have this remove range, means starting from 0 index, remove 2 elements. That means 0 and 1. Okay, so add, sorry, add, we have insert, okay, we have remove it, we have remove range. Remove directly value you have to mention, remove it, index, remove range, you have to mention the index range. Okay, and even if you want to copy the array list, okay, you can do that. You just need to mention, you create a new array list, okay, and say, hey, array list 1, insert range, insert, okay, range means the starting position you have to give. So from 0 index, okay, in array list, copy those values to array list 1. Okay, and not only insert range, you can also use the cloning. Okay, you can use the clone method. So a lot of methods actually. So add method is there, insert is there, remove it, remove range, okay, insert range, clone. So there are a lot of methods. So I just introduced a few methods which are very frequently used. Okay, so if you see the first, we have array list. First we have the list of arrays here, array list here, and I have added Brazil at the 0 index. So since I added Brazil, all these values become move towards right. Okay, India to Hong Kong. So now the index 0 contains Brazil. Now I have added Argentina at the index 2, right? So there is no impact to Brazil and India because 0 index, 1 index as it is. Second index, instead of USA, now we have Argentina. And this USA to UK and all those move towards right side. Remember guys, it is not overriding, it is adding a freshly new data element. So all the remaining elements moves towards right side. Okay, now I have removed Japan. So Japan means here it is. Okay, so up to Sri Lanka, no impact. Since Japan is removed, then Mexico and Hong Kong become here. And then I have removed index 3. Index 3 means 0, 1, 2, 3. USA I have removed. So it did not contain USA after removing. Then I said like no, remove index 0, 1, 2. That means Brazil, India, Argentina, 3 countries gone, right? Or only 2 index. What I mentioned here, let me see. Okay, only 2 values. So 0 and 1 only. Okay. So 2 countries gone, Brazil, India, and from Argentina, it remains there. Okay. And you have created a new array list, right? Using insert range. Okay. So we have the same set of array list has been copied to new one. Okay. I now see I am asking this one contains method, one more method contains. I'm asking whether array list 1 contains India or not. Okay, I don't know why it says it's not, okay, because we have removed India, right? So it says false. India doesn't contains in this array list. Okay, and we can use clone method. Okay, so we can clone the existing array list to a new set of array list, and you can use clear. Clear means you are going to clear every data element, and after clearing, when I tried to print, nothing got printed because now everything is blank in that array. So there are so many methods available, and just go through this program and try to absorb these different methods. Okay, so clear method to clear all the data elements, right? And contains to say whether a specific value is available or not. Okay, so too many methods, guys. So it is basically making your life easy. So because we have in arrays, we don't have these many kind of methods available. We have only quite a handful of methods, but array list contains a lot of methods. And in case since we are talking about arrays and array list, there is also we have the ability to copy array list to array. Okay, so if you see here, right, so I have the array list with the countries. Okay, and you can copy the array list to an array. You see here, array list copy to. Another method I am introducing, copy to, and you mention the array which you where you wanted to copy. So array list copy is your normal array. Okay, and you are trying to give that array name in the copy to method. So it will move the values from array list to array, and it will copy all the elements. Okay, and if you want to sort, you can sort the values from the array list. Okay, and I'm printing after sorting also. Okay, see, initially I have India, USA, UK, Denmark, and Hong Kong. Okay, and I have created a new array and moved, and after moving also the new array contains same values. And then I have set use the sort. So once the sorting is done, now it is moved in the, see, the D H I U K. Okay, so this is, I think, we covered a lot of things about array list. Let's move on to hash table. Okay, so just remember, just a quick recap about array and array list. So array is always a fixed length. You cannot insert a value into the middle. You cannot delete from the middle position. Okay, and it's a type safe. It's a type safe. So we can store only similar type of data types, right? You can only store either integer or float or character in that specific array. But whereas in array list, it's not type safe. Same array list, you can have integer value, you can have a character value, you can have a boolean value. That's why it's not type safe, but it's a variable length, expandable. You can insert anywhere in between, you can delete from anywhere in between. Okay, and here boxing and unboxing. Guys, do you recall boxing and unboxing? So arrays, boxing and unboxing is not required. In array list, we need boxing and unboxing because array list is a class. Okay, it's a we are instantiating array list. So always, if there is an object reference, you need to use boxing and unboxing. Okay, so now come to hash table. Okay, so the biggest problem. Okay, so hash table means we have. Let me go back to that slide. So this hash table and sorted list, these two comes under key value pair. So I'm going to discuss these two, hash table and sorted list. Okay, so hash table means, okay, you are kind of, one second guys. Okay, I'm back. So in hash table, right? So previously in the array list, we were using indexes, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. But in the hash table, we don't need to rely on the indexes. Rather, we rely on our own keys. Okay. So you mention your own key, okay, like country name or country code. Internally, it converts to a hash code. When I say country IND, it will assign a unique value for the IND country code. Okay. So when I say name, it will assign a one more unique code and stores that as a hash code. So basically, internally it uses indexes, okay, some kind of hash codes. But for programmers, you always go by the a generic key defined on yourself, like country or name or books. Okay, so let me show you one easy way with the example hash table. That way you can. Okay, so here I said in the array list we are using index 0, 1, 2, 3. But here if you see I have created a hash table using new. Hash table is a class. Okay, I'm creating a new one called hash table. Okay, as an object, and see what I'm doing here. Same, I'm using the add method for hash table. Okay, if you see the method, it contains two parameters. The first one is the key, second one is the value. Okay, so I said, hey, employee ID is the key and store the value of 1001 in employee ID. Name is a key, store names James in that key. Salary is another key, store the value of 2500. Location, another key, store Mumbai. Email ID is another key. So we have so many keys. So remember, like instead of saying index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm giving my own user defined key value. Okay, so it makes easy because I know EID means it contains employee ID. I know name means that it contains employee name. Location means his work location. Email ID. So by looking at the key, I could easily relate what kind of data that particular a hash table contains. It's very easy. Okay, and so I have added 5 data elements. Okay, and now I am trying to print that values, hash table values. So same like array list. Okay, hash table of the location, the index. Okay, so here I am trying to print. If you see here, this is printing for all the elements. But if you wanted to print a specific location, you can use print hash table of location. So it prints Mumbai. Print hash table of email ID. It prints the email ID of that employee. Okay, and now here I'm adding only one value for the key. But if you want, you can have a multiple values for each and every key. Okay, in a single initialization and declaration. You see this? I have declared a hash table called cities hash table and said 3 different entries. Here, this is my key. UK is my key. Okay, and London, Manchester, Birmingham, these are all my cities in the UK. So these are all the values. USA is my key and the different cities, Chicago, New York, Washington are my values. India is a key and Mumbai, New Delhi, Pune all are our values. So instead of adding one by one manually at the later point, during the declaration itself, you can instantiate the values, keys and values for the hash table. Okay, so if you see, if you want, you can print the values. Okay, and same, it also contains, that contains keyword. If you want to see whether the UK contains or not, it will print yes or no. Okay, contains, and also we have contains key. contains key means whether Australia is exist or not. Okay, where okay, like we can always retrieve using contains or contains key. Contains means using the okay, contains means using the key value, right? You can also use contains key also. Okay, I will show you difference what is contains and contains key. And also we have contains value. And so in the previous example, we have declared as well as initialized. Okay, and here I have one more hash table called employee. Okay, and I have created a new one and I said like no, hey, remove EID. That means I am asking to remove the EID code. Okay, and you can use the contains key also. See, I mean basically I try to add more and more code and to show you like no different methods available in the hash table. So if you see here, I have first added these 5 values. Okay, and I printed those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I printed all those using for loop. Then I printed explicitly the hash table dot location and email ID. Okay, and read key is there. So let me enter read key. Okay, so now you see here we have one more hash table to store the city names. Okay, and it printed all the values for each. Okay, right. Okay, and I'm asking whether UK is exists. UK exists or not. This is the key value, right? Key UK exists. It says yes. Okay, and it's whether Australia exists. There is no Australia as a key here, right? So it printed false. Okay, and again, is UK key exist? Yes. Australia key exists? No. That means you can use contains or contains key. Both works as same. And one more thing is contains value. Whether London, Manchester, Birmingham exists. Yes, we have London, Manchester, Birmingham. This is as a single. It is taking as a single value. Okay, that's why it said yes, right? Is London exist? Is Hyderabad exist? Okay, you see here, is London exists? True, but if you see Hyderabad exists, it said false. Why? Because it is treating this entire value as a single entity. Okay, so if you see in the UK, I am trying to compare the in the London, I'm trying to compare the against entire string value or entire values. That's why it said yes. But Hyderabad exists. But the what is the value of Hyderabad here? It is completely no, Hyderabad is not there right here, right? I did not mention Hyderabad here. That's why it just simply said false. Okay, now one more hash table. Okay, EID name, salary, location, employee ID, and I have removed EID. So after removing the EID, so total 5, it becomes 4. Okay, and I am asking whether my hash table contains a city. City is not there here, so it said no. Okay, and I have cleared all the values. Okay, so after clearing, I'm printing what is the number of count of hash table entries. It said 0. Okay, so basically, it works same, but the major difference is that you are defining your own key in hash table. Okay, and similarly, sort list also as good as hash table, but only one difference. Okay, so sorted list is, it is same as, you know, on the previously explained hash table. The only difference is that it's always sorted automatically in ascending order. Whenever you add on the new data elements, whenever there is any operation on the specific sorted list, always the list is sorted and readily available for us to consume. Okay, so it goes by the same key value relationship and same as hash table. One change is that, as the name depicts, it's the list is always in a sorted order. Okay, so here again, like, no, I'm not going to go through the entire code, but you know, I just try to, you know, introduce a lot of code with the different methods and different types of initialization. Okay, so if you see here, I have created a sorted list using new keyword. Okay, and I am using, you know, the add method to add the different elements like 1, 5, 4, 2, 3. Okay, and then let's say, like, now see, I have ordered in a different way, not in a sorted order. But if you try to print, right, it will automatically print in the sorted order. Okay, if you see here, right, let's see. Okay, see, you have ordered, you have given, like, you know, 1, 5, 4, 2, 3, right, and here it's automatically sorted with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right. And if you wanted to explicitly access one particular data element, you can use the sorted list of 1, 2, 3. Okay, it is printing 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can also print using that get by index. Okay, so though normally we don't use the index, okay, in hash table or sorted list, but still there is a provision. If you want to access, you can access by index also, 0, 1, 2. So it is printing with 0, 1, 2. Okay, and I have one more sorted list: India, USA, South Africa, and UK. What's happening? Okay, India, USA, South Africa, and UK, right? So it automatically got sorted. You see, first India, then S, then U, then USA. So it UK and USA. So it automatically sorted. Okay, and if you want to remove a specific one, you can remove by mentioning the value which you wanted to remove. Okay, so I'm trying to remove South Africa here, right? Okay, so after removing South Africa, right, I have India, UK, and USA only. This one got removed. Okay, so it's a different methods. So basically, only thing is that, like, you know, as I mentioned here, we have always the list is sorted. Okay, and okay, then stacks and queues. So as by this time you already know what is stack and what is queue. Okay, so stack is always goes by the last in first out. Okay, whatever you kept at the end or the later side, that will be the first one to retrieve. And we have predefined methods to access, to insert the particular value or to remove the from the top. Okay, so guys, if it is stack and queues, you cannot add or you cannot insert in between, right? When you insert, right, when you if it is stack, okay, you can go on increasing, you can go on adding the stack, but whenever you try to grab the value, it has to be always from the top only, or the last one which you keyed in. You cannot retrieve in between, or you cannot add in between. It's always, okay, the most recent one only you can always pick it up. That is in stacks. And queues also, it's always, like, you know, first in first out. So if you insert three elements like 1, 2, 3, and if you wanted to retrieve, you can always retrieve only the first one, not the third one, because queues works opposite to stack, right? So let me take a couple of examples, one each for stack and queue, because there are some methods to insert and retrieve. Okay, so if you see here the stack, new stack, if you want to add any values to the stack, you have to use push method. Push. Okay, and if it is a stack, right, it's a last in first out. So if you want to retrieve or pull any value, you have to use pop. So when you say pop, right, it will pick up the last entered value, which is a, right, because this is the one most recently available. So when I say pop, this value will be gone. Okay, so push and pop. So if you see, I have one more stack. Okay, stack one, I added the entries. If you want to get the count of data elements in the stack, you can use the count method, count property. Okay, so pop means to retrieve the most recent value, which is a. Okay, and there is one more thing called peek. Okay, so when you say pop, it it pulls out the value and starts using it. But when you say peek, right, it won't pull the value, it will only just display it. Just if you want to see what is the most recent value available in my stack, if you want to know only what is the value available in your stack, you can use peek. If you want to know or if you want to consume it, then use pop. Pop is to consume, peek is only to see what is there. Okay, so if you see here, right, okay, so we have 10 hello, 3.14 true, 67.8 and a, and I try to print the values. So what happens, since it is last in first out, you see the stack is like in the most recent one is available at the top. Okay, 10 is available at the bottom. Okay, and when you say pop, okay, what happened, pop means the most recent one gone, and it displayed only the remaining ones, because when we say pop, it retrieves, it starts consuming. Okay, and now I have the same set of one more stack, and I'm showing you how it differs, how the peek differs from pop. Okay, okay, so first it has 1 2 3 4 5 6 elements. Okay, and the topmost element is pop, right, it is 5. Okay, right, so since the 5 is gone, oh sorry, since the a is gone, the next one is 67.8. Okay, right, so when you say peek, it has 67.8 as a on the top, right, so peek only to display the value, but it actually doesn't consume. There's a difference between pop and peek. Okay, so let me, what's happening, okay, so let me take you to one more. These are very fairly simple. Okay, there is no complex here. We are just ready-madely we have the classes. We are just creating a new instance and start using it. Okay, so in queues, it's always like the first in first out. And if you want to add a value to the queue, you have to use enqueue. Enqueue is a method to add the values to the queue. Okay, and if you want to retrieve the one, you have to use dequeue. So when you say dequeue, what happens? The very first one entered in the queue is 101, right? So when I say dequeue, this value will be retrieved. Okay, and same way peek means it won't consume, it won't use it, it only display the value. So here you see, this is the values we entered initially, and I said remove the first added item, because when I say DQ, it removes the 101. Okay, so I said DQ. After that, I'm printing. Let's see what happens. So the 101, the oldest one gone, and now we have the queue contains only 4 elements or 5 elements. Okay, and when I say peak is only, it will retrieve it. Okay, but it won't. What's happening here? Okay, so peek into the value. Okay, so I'm trying to print that value. Okay, I say peek. So we have hello got printed. Okay, so just remember, like, just remember the each and every collections class and the important of that class and the important methods. Okay, so now you know array list, you know hash table, you know sorted list, you know stacks, you know queues, right? Okay, so now I said, like, we have, these are all non-generic collections, but later in the .NET, in the C hash, we have generic collections also. So the reason why they have introduced generic classes is because, like, the non-generic collections are not type safe. When I say not type safe, okay, you have the ability to store any kind of value. You can store an integer value, you can store a string value, right? So there is no control to see what kind of values you are storing in your array list. Okay. So whenever, because the problem with this is you need to know what kind of value it contains. Accordingly, you will try to do the casting. You need to convert into a string or float or integer based on the value it has. So since casting is required, okay, generic, non-generic are called as not a type safe. Okay, and that is one biggest problem. And second thing is, since these are classes, okay, whenever you create a object using the classes, okay, and you wanted to move it to a data type, you have to use this boxing and unboxing. Remember, guys, boxing and unboxing is always a performance overhead, because when you say boxing, right, you are moving the individual data elements to a object, right, which requires involvement of stack and heap, both the memories. Similarly, unboxing also, it requires, right, the object variables move to a individual data elements. Again, it requires both the memory, stack and heap. Right, stack and heap memory difference. Whenever you declare or whenever you instantiate any object, it is stored in the heap memory, but the regular data types are always stored in the stack memory. So whenever you use this boxing and unboxing, you are dealing with two different memories, and it's always a overhead. So that's why, like, just to overcome of these problems, okay, we have the, generic ones. Okay, so as I explained here, right, this one. So to overcome the problems with the collections, non-generic ones, we have this generic classes. So you see, same thing, like, stack, queue, hash set, sorted list, it is same, as good as same. Okay, that's why, like, now I'm not going to repeat the same stuff. You can just Google it and try to see what kind of methods each and every generic class has. Okay, and concurrent classes, probably when I cover the multi-threading, I will explain you. That way, we covered all these three different classes for collections. Okay, so remember, guys, these collections are, like, very important concept actually. So because predominantly you use, because see, as you know, array only we deal with the same data type. Suppose if you wanted to store the employee data, okay, you have employee number integer, employee name string, employee salary floating, right? You have different data types. So you can store all those different data types using this, okay, array list or hash table or sorted list. Okay, so just go through these concepts, okay, Google it to understand more about the generic and congruent classes, okay, and yeah, that's all for today. Any questions from today's topics?
No.
Okay, so fair enough. I will stop the recording, okay, and I'm going to upload this, or I will give the link to Krishna so that he can upload into that YouTube channel. Okay, all right, so if there are no questions, I will wind up for the day. We'll meet tomorrow same time. Thank you so much, Siva and Vamshi.
Thanks, Anna.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.